Welcome back to episode 15 of the Women of Wrestling podcast. 15 already. What are we doing with our lives? I'm Stu Allen here alongside Lee Burton.
Hello!
And 1 week removed from our big interview with Serena Deeb, we are back with more goods for you. And we're doubling the pleasure this week with our first double bill.
Yeah, I think it's about time. I think it's time for us to spread our wings a bit and evolve.
Okay, that works for me.
Well, we had the short chat with Nikki Storm previously, so that gives everyone a little bit of a taste. And we figure, let's get a little bit more extra content out there.
Why not, indeed. For our main event coming up later on, we're going to be talking to Madison Eagles, current Shimmer Champion, all the way from Australia. But before we get there, we're going to try and discuss wrestling on 3 different continents on this show. So if Madison covers the Australasian and American continents, we've got someone who's going to cover both America and Europe. Lee, do the introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, we introduce you to Sassy Stephie.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Stephie. Thanks for coming on the show. You're someone that we've become quite familiar with over the last few months, I'm happy to say, because you came all the way over to England to visit us and, by the way, do some wrestling shows as well.
Yes, absolutely. I had a blast over there. It's once-in-a-lifetime trip. Well, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but...
I was going to say, first of many at the least.
Oh, let's hope.
Yeah, exactly. And also, apart from wrestling in England last month, just this past weekend, you'd been wrestling up in Canada as well. You're becoming a world traveller as you competed as the part of the 4th Femmes Fatales show.
I'm trying. I mean, going international was something I definitely wanted to accomplish in my career at some point, and to only be 3 years in, almost 4, to be going international to England and Canada is just it's crazy to me, but I love it.
You got a passport specifically to go to Canada to do the Femme Fatale show and to come over to England as well.
Yep.
Which is not bad, because I got a passport specifically to go to Shimmer, so that's a bit strange. But nevertheless, let's talk about these things one at a time, and let's go back to the heady days of September when you were over here getting your wrestle on. Worked 4 times when you were over here. Worked for All Star, worked for Pro Wrestling in Darlaston, and also twice for WAW. What were your initial thoughts of the British wrestling scene?
Well, my first couple of matches over there were pretty equal to American wrestling. It wasn't too different. But my last match that I had over there in the UK was against Saraya Knight, and I had challenged her for one of her titles because she holds. I don't even think anybody could count.
I think 4 at the minute. I'm usually the official sort of historian as far as who's got titles in WAW. I think she's got 4 at the minute.
Well, I challenged her for one of those the night before when I wrestled her, and we wrestled in rounds, which was a completely new concept for me. In fact, I had to pull somebody to the side and I go, "So what exactly am I doing? What exactly are wrestling in rounds?" And they said it's the equivalent to boxing. You go out 3 minutes, you wrestle, and then 30-second break, and then you go right back at it. And I was really intrigued by that, and I really felt at home, actually, once I, got through the first and second round. I was starting to feel more comfortable with it, and I actually love it. I would love to incorporate that into the States somehow.
Really different style as well, because it's start and stop. You can't get any sort of significant heat for a long time because there's a break every 3 minutes. But you're saying it was easy to adjust to?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Because sometimes in a match, my cardio, which can always use improvements, sometimes you lose that wind and you can't fight back, or you can't keep fighting on either the offense or defense. And you lose your grip, but with 3 minutes, it's like you just start getting going, and you're like, "Oh man, I have to stop already." It's like I was just going, so it was very easy to keep my stamina up as far as that went. So I really liked it.
And these matches that you had that you had over here, these were your first matches back from the injury that you suffered as well. So what was that like?
Oh, at first I was so frightened. I was like, oh, please. I was sitting in the back going, please don't hurt my shoulder again. I had separated my shoulder about 4 or 5 weeks before I came to England, and they were my first matches back, so I was really worried, but I had done the proper rehabilitation, and I had a brace that I was wearing to help stabilize my shoulder. So I did well, and I continue to use the brace even though my doctor says that it's not necessary, but I'm just keeping it on as precautionary, probably for another couple more weeks, just to make sure my shoulder is back at what it needs to be at.
Well, you were scared. I was terrified as well, especially just when a few weeks before the big England trip that we'd all helped put together, there was a tweet from you saying, I'm in the emergency room. I couldn't believe it. I mean, talk about what happened as far as the injury is concerned with your shoulder. It was one of those injuries just comes from something innocuous, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so funny because somebody emailed me and they asked me, oh, since you hurt your shoulder, are you going to stop doing risky moves? I'm like, I wasn't doing anything risky, really, when I was in the ring when it happened. I was wrestling a girl named Brittany Force over here in the States, and I was fighting back. I was down on my knees, and I was fighting up, and she grabbed me by my hair and threw me backwards. And just the way that I hit the padding, whoever set up the ring was obviously the most intelligent person, because the padding was severely uneven in various sections. So just the way that I hit the padding shot my right shoulder forward and knocked it out.
Wow. You see, I was going to say, whoever asked you that about risky moves, I was going to say you're not really well known for your 450 splashes, are you? No,
definitely. The ground is my friend. The mat is my friend. There's not very often where you'll see me go to the top for any reason whatsoever. And then if I do, you better make sure that it's going to be impactful.
Fair enough. And then, well, let's have a quick run through what you did then when you were in England, just for posterity. Your first match then was with Lisa Fury for All Star in Hanley. How'd you find Lisa?
Lisa was a treat to work with. She was very sweet, understood that that I was previously hurt, but didn't slack on me in the ring. She, kept on me. And then my second match, I was supposed to be the first ever women's match for pro wrestling in Darlston, but there was a guy named Mark Clark that came out and informed everyone that my opponent was cleaning his house.
Indeed so.
So I informed him that since I didn't have an opponent that I was challenging him. And the kids and everybody, they were so behind me. They hated him because he had my opponent cleaning their house. So that match was so fan-driven. Like, I felt them behind me, and that just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I mean, it wasn't only just me wrestling a male that I had, as far as cons in that match, but he has a twin brother who also came out and interfered. But with the fans driving me to a big old victory over them. So that was pretty awesome. And the crowd just erupted when I finally hit him with the Kiss My Sass for the second time, actually.
That was one of those times when everything was really worth it. I mean, I was sitting at the back of the hall, which, by the way, was packed out. I was really impressed with the turnout for that one. But you were working babyface. You just beaten up both of these brothers, and you were out to ringside, and you were getting swarmed by kids. Like, just everybody was around your waist. They were all clamoring for you, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. I'd never seen you work as a babyface before then, but that was a hell of a time.
Oh, it was so awesome. I never felt that comfortable as a babyface before then, but I mean, their support and their rallying behind me. I mean, I was in England and they started the USA chant. I mean, you can't get much better than that. So
that is
it was awesome.
Just on a side note with that as well, you did a lot of media coverage for that show. You did a lot of different interviews at radio stations. It seems like you were quite well received by a lot of those people. But what was that like being interviewed for a lot of British radio stations, including the BBC?
Oh, it was awesome. One thing that might not be well known about me is when I did go to college, I was going for radio broadcasting. So it was like I got to put two of my career dreams into one. I was promoting this wrestling show, but I was also, on the radio doing it. So it was amazing because I wanted to do radio when I was a kid, and then I loved wrestling as a kid. So to put both of those passions of mine together, it was just amazing.
Just on a side note, if anybody does want to listen to one of those interviews by Stephie, we did get one from BBC WM. That's still available on the Women of Wrestling Audio Boo page, so we'll stick a link for that on the front page as well.
Oh, cool, because I'm going to have to grab that as well.
Cool stuff. And then your last two matches in the UK were both against Sweet Saraya for WAW back to back. One regular rules, and then the second one, as you said, was the rounds rules. Just give us a quick thought about Saraya. I mean, she's well known to the European listeners and that we'll have around here as well, but she might not be as well known for some of the Americans. Talk about Saraya.
Man, I don't think there's enough words to describe the amount of respect that I have for her. Being in the ring with her was, especially 2 matches in a row, was unbelievable. I learned so much from her and her entire family. I mean, they all wrestle for WAW. And, I mean, I came away from both of those matches feeling like a brand new wrestler. Like, I learned so much that it was like I never wrestled before because I learned so much. I mean, I think I learned more wrestling her than I probably did the whole 3 years that I've been wrestling. I mean, there's just so much. But, I mean, like I said, her whole family wrestles, and she's been wrestling for, God, I think she said 20-some years.
Yeah, it's about 20 years.
I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I don't have enough words, adjectives to describe how much respect I have for her.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I'm really happy then that you had an opportunity to do that, and hopefully it's by far the last time that you will get a chance to work with Saraya.
Well, I also hope to work with her daughter too. Unfortunately, she was out of the country while I was there, but I've heard such excellent things about her daughter that I would love to get into the ring with her as well.
The apple does not fall far from the tree as far as Brittany Knight is concerned. Yeah, I think most of what you say about Saraya you can pretty much evenly give to Brittany as well. And considering she's only 18, the potential she's got in front of her is unlimited.
Well, I've heard a couple of good rumors about her, so she can go nowhere but up from where she's at right now. So
all good. And then, unfortunately, as much as we tried to keep you in the UK, you had to go back stateside again. But your international travels were not done. You were up at Femmes Fatales last weekend. We love Femmes Fatales. Stefan and Lufisto are always very kind to us, and we just wanted to get a bit of a first-hand opinion from you about heading up there for the first time. What was that like?
Well, besides being 2.5 hours northwest of where I had to be, originally, it was we got a little lost on our drive up there, but because I went with a wrestler named Roxie Cotton from Philadelphia area. And we had a blast. The show was amazing. I mean, I don't speak any other language besides English fluently. I can hold a, opening conversation probably in Spanish, but other than that, I'm not fluent in any languages besides English. And so being in Montreal, where they speak French, the majority of people do, it was quite the culture shock for me, being only, I mean, it's still pretty far away, but being within, the same continent and not being able to speak the same language as a lot of people that were there. Luckily for me, I was able to talk to both girls who were in my match, but I mean, the talent that the Montreal area has as homegrown talent is amazing, and I know a lot of those girls are looking for opportunities to come to the States and wrestle, especially places like Shimmer.
Let's talk about them then. I mean, did you get to see much of the show apart from obviously your own match? You worked your three-way match with PJ Tyler and Kat Power first of all, but I mean, did you get to see much of the rest of the show? Can you give us any opinions as a viewer?
I did. I watched the first half of the show, and then I watched the ending of the last match between Lufisto and Portia Perez. And I mean, they started off the show with a couple of dark matches that weren't, I guess, not going to be on the DVD, but just kind of to try out the talent. And all the girls, I mean, they put their whole heart and soul out there. And I was really impressed by a bunch of the girls that I had never met. And then, you had the people that I am familiar with that I've seen at Shimmer or I've wrestled against, like Portia Perez, Cheerleader Melissa, Mercedes Martinez, Nicole Matthews, women that I am familiar with, Amazing Kong. And, I mean, all of them put on, blockbuster matches as to be expected.
What's the vibe around Femme Fatale? Is there a sort of buzz about it that this promotion's going to go places?
I think so. They're using a lot of their homegrown talent, and they're putting them up against people that are more well-known. Like one of the girls I particularly liked, I can't remember her first name, but her last name was Ivy, and they for the next show they're going to have her wrestle Allison Danger, and it's just like, I remember when I first started, Allison Danger was one of my inspirations for getting in the ring. So I think anybody who's that young in the business who gets a chance to wrestle somebody as experienced and is well versed in wrestling as Allison Danger, they definitely have their work cut out for them, but it's definitely a great opportunity for them as well.
That would be Anastasia Ivy.
Yes, Anastasia Ivy. That would be her.
There you go. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. They've really tried to sort of put a big focus on some of their homegrown girls as well by putting them in big matches. I know Calamity's got quite a big push up there as well. Did you get to see any of Calamity?
Actually, no, I didn't really get to watch her match. Hers was two before mine. Or the one before mine, actually, I think. So I was getting ready for my match by stretching out a little bit and stuff. I tried to catch glimpses if I could, but I was more focused on my match at that time.
And what about the main event then? You saw the end of the Lufisto versus Portia Perez match. I know that's online now as well, clips from the end of it as well. Quite the reaction.
Yeah, they beat the hell out of each other. And I mean, I think when you're in a championship match, that definitely increases your fury when you're wrestling. It definitely adds another step or two up to your level that you want to wrestle at. But especially the first time ever Femme Fatales Championship, I mean, that's a huge honor to be the first of anything. So, I mean, those two girls, they beat the crap out of each other.
Sounds like something that we need to see. Lee, you were telling me it's going to be out on DVD sooner rather than later?
Yeah, apparently. I think I remember reading this going to be out later on this month.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm right about that. I might be corrected, but I think there's going to be quite a fast turnaround on it.
That's awesome. Just in time for Christmas. That's great marketing.
That's an excellent stocking filler. Good idea. I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can buy all three in a bundle right now as well.
Yes, you can. They were selling those at the shows as well.
We do love our Femme Fatale. I got the third DVD a little while ago last week. I haven't had a chance to watch any of it yet, but that's the first half of the title tournament, and then Femme Fatale 4 with the second half in due course. Do absolutely think everybody should check it out. Let's go back just one bit before we let you go, and I feel there's a story that's probably begging to be told here, but you said you ended up 2.5 hours away from where you needed to be when you did your little road trip with Roxie Cotton. Talk to us about sharing a car with Roxie and what exactly happened.
Roxie Cotton and I have only met a few times, but we were very friendly with one another. So when I found out I was going to be doing a road trip with her, I was like, this is going to be insane, because I know her personality just from meeting her. She's very bubbly, very high on life, and it didn't fail even at 9 o'clock in the morning when she picked me up from the airport. She was wired and ready to go, and we set the GPS for what we thought was the hotel. And so we're driving, and I fell asleep for a little bit in the car, so you can't blame this on me. But the GPS ended up taking us to a whole nother territory in Canada. We were supposed to be in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we ended up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, which is about 2.5 hours northwest of where we were supposed to be for the show. But luckily, we took off Friday for the show and not on Saturday, which was the day of the show. So we got there with plenty of time left to spare, but we definitely got lost. In fact, our GPS, we're like all excited. It was like, oh, we'll be there in 5 minutes. We're so excited. And then we pulled up to a housing development, and we're like, I don't think this is where we're supposed to be. So we had to call the promoter and have him try to direct us on our way. But we were so far northwest that he was even unsure of where we were. So we stopped at a gas station, and thank goodness there was a lady that at least spoke decent enough English to get us at least going in the right direction.
This is awesome. When did you, obviously you thought you were going to end up in Montreal. So at what point did it dawn on you that you were actually in Ottawa?
When we were driving back towards the area that the lady was telling us to head into, and we saw a big sign that said Ottawa, and I was like, Ottawa's not even in Quebec. We're in Ontario. I don't know Canada geography that well and where the cities are located and stuff, but I do know some of the bigger cities and where they're located, so I knew we were definitely not in the right area at that time for sure. Dear
God.
Yeah. But Rox,
just so you know as well, there's a for anybody who's listening who wants to see a little bit about Stephie's road trip, you put up some of your Stepping Out with Stephanie videos up on YouTube, and there's one of them which I adored. I thought it was fantastic. It was where you just crossed the border into Canada and you were standing in front of the big Welcome to Ontario sign.
Yes, that was right when we crossed the border, which of course with Roxie Cotton, I think only her and I possibly could do this. We crossed the border twice.
What?
Okay, tell us that story as well.
Well, okay, we crossed the border. We went through all the proper customs things, and I had to exchange money because all I had was American money. And I think we both actually needed to use the restroom because at that point in time we had been in the car for quite a bit of time. So we pulled off into the duty-free store. Well, this is the first time that I've ever been in Canada since I was 12 or 13, and I was on a school trip at that time. So, and it was only her second time going over the Canadian border. So we pulled into the duty-free store because, it was just a proper left we could easily make, no problem. So we went in, and Roxie was trying to buy some stuff, and they're like, you can't buy anything over here because you're going into Canada. You were supposed to stop at the American duty-free store on the American side. So they're like, and you can't turn around and go back out of the parking lot the way you came, so you have to go back out and go back through the border and the customs again. Only Roxie Cotton and I.
So you say you crossed the border twice. You actually, I guess, crossed it 3 times because you went into Canada, back into America, and then back into Canada again.
Yeah, and on the way home we just made one clean sweep. We were through the border and we're just done with it.
As most normal people do it. Exactly.
But Roxie Cotton and I are definitely not your normal people, so.
Well, yeah, that video, that Stepping Out with Stephanie one where you're on the border with Ontario, she's constantly talking about how she wants to touch Tyler Black.
Yes.
Which is hilarious, by the way.
Oh, if you only... that was only a fraction of the crazy conversations we had. That wasn't even close to a majority of anything that was talked about that entire weekend. Because by the time it was all said and done, we were in the car for about 48 hours together and in the hotel together. So we had quite the crazy conversations, and we were hopped up on sugar trying to stay awake with Skittles and various pop throughout the weekend. So we were definitely having a good old time.
I'm not sure how I can even follow that up with a question, but Roxie Cotton and Stephie, 48 hours hopped up on sugar.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be on the Femme Fatale 4 DVD, unfortunately. But,
No.
But still, consider buying this DVD all the same. It's going to be more than worth your money.
It's definitely worth every penny or every pound or every euro. I'm becoming very fluent with my my different monies.
Indeed.
And the different countries that I've been to.
Yeah, you're gonna start taking a list now and crossing countries off as you meet them.
Well, actually, what I need to do, my bank will not take the coins; they'll only take the paper money. So I have to find somewhere where I can exchange my coin money from Europe and England and Canada, so that I can get
happen.
American money. Well, I know I have to go to the airport and do it apparently, but when I was in Philadelphia, I was walking to my terminal, and there was nowhere in the terminal where I could switch my money out. And I'm like, this is supposed to be an international airport. Why can't I find anywhere to switch my money? But I'll find
Just
one
hold on to it
eventually.
for next time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's one of the pieces of advice that Mischief once gave us Brits a couple of trips ago when we were talking about going home with money, and she just looked at it and she said, "Save it for next time." And you know what? You know what we did. And I know I came home last time from the last Shimmer trip with a couple of $100. I haven't changed it back. It's ready for the next trip.
Hey, well, that's awesome. See, I only have probably when I transfer it out, probably like $20 American in pounds and not much in euros and not much in Canadian anyway. But it's just the fact that, that's $20, $30 I could use here now, so.
I suppose, fair enough, yeah. But all right, well, look, before we let you go, what have you got coming up? What's next on the agenda for Sassy Stephie?
I actually have another all-women show coming up this Saturday with WSU.
Of course, yeah, the pay-per-view.
Yes, the pay-per-view in New Jersey, which I'll be challenging Brittany Savage for her Spirit Championship. And then after that, I'm doing a couple of shows here and there, but pretty much for the rest of the year, that's pretty much it because I have another job where December is the month from hell. So I chose not to take any bookings in December due to I'm not going to have very much sleep at all.
Fair enough. That's a good point, though, actually, you mentioned about the Go Fight Live pay-per-view. We mentioned it last week with Serena, but we may as well hit it again. Go to gofightlive.com, check it out, the WSU pay-per-view from Union City, New Jersey, I believe.
Yes.
$10. Can't say fairer than that. Check it out.
No, and there's so many people involved in this show and so many great matches that are going to happen. I mean, you have Mercedes Martinez versus Jazz, which right there, to me, as not only a women's wrestler, but as a fan of wrestling in general, right there is worth that $10. That's going to be a hard-hitting, impactful match that's just going to be one for the record books, that's for sure. And then, of course, you have me versus Brittany Savage, which is also going to be awesome.
New champion coming up, baby.
Yeah, well, hey, that's 2 of, I think, 4 championship matches, so definitely worth it. And they even have Homicide has something to do with Mercedes Martinez challenging her for a match, I guess. I don't know. It's so far up in the air that I don't know, but it is an all-women's promotion, and Homicide, Ring of Honor TNA star, coming in and starting some trouble for Mercedes.
Sounds like Homicide's got something he wants to tell us.
I guess so. You have to...
Actually, I'm not even going to go.
The pay-per-view.
I'm not even going to go there. He'll cut me otherwise.
Oh.
But no, Stephie, thank you, of course, for coming on the show. We're going to let you go, but it's been a pleasure as always. Everybody check out Stephie online on her Twitter. It's worth a follow, at Sassy Stephie. Check out the Go Fight Live pay-per-view this weekend. And
check out our YouTube.
Check out Stepping Out with Stephanie. Subscribe, even.
It's fun times. You get to see the outtakes and stuff of being on the road with a professional wrestler.
What's your YouTube account?
It is Miss Sassy Stephie. Whole lot of S's. When I type that out, I go, what was I thinking?
It works, though. Once you've subscribed, you never have to type it again. Wonderful.
Exactly.
All right, Stephie, we're going to let you go, and we're going to morph you as if by magic into our next guest. And as far as you, the listeners, are concerned, we'll be back in just about a minute. Okay, we are back on the Women of Wrestling podcast. Our second guest of the evening, our main event guest, is someone who's risen to main events in Shimmer over the last couple of years. She is the reigning Shimmer champion, as much as that sticks in my throat to say. She is the Punisher, Madison Eagles. Madison, welcome to the show.
Thank you, but why would that stick in your throat? Come on, it's pretty easy to say. The champion Madison Eagles.
Because you beat Mischief, and I can't forgive you for this ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Ever?
Really?
Oh,
really?
I'm going to work at you. I'm going to work on you because I don't believe that.
No, I can't allow myself to like you. It's not in my nature. I can't do it. No.
Oh, that's just mean. Oh, jeez.
But in the interests of professionalism, I'm going to try and conduct an interview nevertheless.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being professional.
It's the first time I've ever been professional on this show before, but yeah, we can but try.
Okay, we'll attempt it and we'll see how it goes.
Basically, yeah. Now, one thing, and I'm not going to say I take any pleasure in this at all, but you're currently injured.
Yes, I know.
Tell us about this, because this is just recently this happened. What's the situation?
Well, originally we thought that it wasn't as bad as it was. Last week at training, we were doing some amateur wrestling, and I was wrestling one of the guys, and he's about 100 kilos or so, and we both sort of crunched over my arm that got bent backwards and underneath both of us. So originally we thought it was maybe just a bit of a tendon tear in the hand, and that I'd popped my elbow. But second review says that that I've actually fractured my elbow and my wrist, so I'm still going to have a couple of weeks off, unfortunately.
A couple of weeks? That sounds quite dangerous. That sounds quite bad.
It does, but you gotta. The thing is with those ones, and some of the strains and stuff that have happened in that arm due to that whole situation, you've got to sort of keep moving. You got to keep moving to get it recovered. You can't just sit there and let it I guess heal straight as you put it if you were putting it in a cast, because that way the bones and everything's not healing right. So you just got to keep moving and just keep going with what you're doing. Just taking it easy, getting a lot of rest and stuff. But just got to keep moving.
I'm slightly shocked. You fractured your wrist and your elbow, and you think the best way to get over it is to keep moving.
Well, I'm not going to go lift weights, but I have two little kids running around. There's an impossibility of me getting any rest whatsoever.
All right, fair enough. I can see your point, but still, okay. but it's not likely to keep you out for any extended length of time. Fingers crossed, then, yeah.
No. Hopefully we'll review the situation in a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I have to pull out a couple of shows, but hopefully we'll get back into it sooner rather than later with just some easy stuff. So we'll just see how it goes and play it by ear.
I wouldn't have thought moving around on fractures was the best thing, but I'm not a doctor.
Maybe my doctors are just crazy like I am, and they're like, just let it hit, whatever.
It's an Australian thing.
It's an Australian thing. Walk it off.
That sounds about right, actually. I could buy that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right then.
Always on the ball. Always moving.
Well, you've been in the wrestling business for what, almost 10 years now, and even before that, you've always been in shape because you originally worked as a lifeguard in Bronte Beach. I understand.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Pretty much when I stopped working as a lifeguard, I went into pro wrestling.
As far as life as a lifeguard in Sydney is concerned, that's got to be some job. I mean, how long were you in that?
Well, in Australia we have surf life saving, and you start from when you're quite young. You start at like 5 years old, and you just you do the play around sort of stuff like beach races and swims and sort of stuff. When you hit about 16. You go into the lifeguarding. So, you become a qualified lifesaver and work the weekends and stuff like that. So, it's pretty, everyone's pretty much used to it here. It's a normal thing, I guess you'd say, if you live near the beach.
I was just going to say, your dad's pretty high up in surf lifesaving, isn't he?
He is. Earlier today, he got voted in as president of Surf Life Saving Australia, which pretty much governs the entire surf life saving in Australia, exactly as it says.
Wow. So success is in the family then?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. We can't stop striving for something better.
And is life as a lifeguard on Bronte Beach, is it just like Baywatch? I need to ask.
Well, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to say yes, just so that gets more people to Australia to come visit the beaches.
Oh, you said it's not quite as glamorous as it sounds. Are you saying that television...
No, it is. But you just, we see, the thing is, I'm guessing Baywatch, they were more concerned with the boobs coming out of the costumes, whereas in Australia, we're more concerned with actually saving people from drowning.
That's a trade-off, I suppose, yeah.
No, but the guys are good looking, the girls are good looking, everyone's in shape down there. You'd love it. Everyone would love it.
What a terrible life that you have to leave as a lifeguard. I mean, you get to sit in the sun, you get to enjoy yourself, you get to hang out with really good looking people, and occasionally you have to breathe air into somebody's lungs.
Exactly. Make out with people on a regular basis.
Fair enough.
That's not how it's done, kids.
That's the daughter of the president of Surf USA speaking there. Lovely. We don't usually. We don't usually do a lot of prep in these things. We tend to keep them more freewheeling. But from one of the things I did find when I did do a bit of searching for some info on you, I need to ask about this as well. Not only was the lifeguard thing quite interesting, but you were apparently also a dancer at the 2000 Olympic Games opening ceremony.
Yes, I was. Tap dancer. I'm pretty talented.
What? Explain this to me immediately.
I've been a dancer since I was 5 as well. I danced for about from 5 till I was about 16. So, it was just, had auditions and stuff for the opening ceremony. And, as long as you could keep a beat with your feet, you're in. So it's not that glamorous.
Still pretty impressive, though. I don't know. There's another reason to hate you, Madison. You're too multi-talented.
Oh, I am. I'm a jack of all trades. And ambidextrous.
Well, just as well at the minute.
I know.
Actually, just thinking about it as well, weren't you a gymnast as well?
Yes. I was in artistic gymnastics for a while until I got a bit too tall to swing on the bars, so then I moved to rhythmic, which is a lot more flexibility.
So you're throwing a ribbon around and one of those balls and things like that?
Well, yeah, and, hold your leg up beside your head, do lots of splits and that sort of stuff. Very flexible. You got to be very flexible for it. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
The thing is, splitting your legs isn't that difficult. I mean, I did it this morning.
Oh, there you go.
I'm lying, I didn't, but,
Let's pretend you did, Lee.
Well, if I hadn't said I was lying, you might have believed me.
No one would believe me if I said I did it, but still. All right, then. Moving on from the Olympic Games, then in 2000, 2001 was the year that you got into wrestling as far as actually getting involved with it. What brought you to wrestling?
I loved it. It was just, watching it on TV and being a fan and, it just, I wanted to do it for years. I was so determined to be a wrestler that at 16 I wanted to move to America to learn how to wrestle. Knew I was going to be training and so on and so forth for a year before I actually started training. Just because they said that I wasn't allowed to train until I was about 17. So once I turned 17, it's just the way I wanted to go with my life. I just knew it. So
when you say you were a fan, then were we talking about the American style of wrestling, or did you have sort of Australian wrestling idols that you looked up to as well?
American.
Okay.
Because the Australian idols, it's a bit wishy-washy with that. Like there are standout wrestlers from Australia that everyone seems to know, but no one of that had really good solid technique, I guess you'd say, and all that sort of stuff. It was mostly the Americans that get a lot of people into the wrestling here in Australia. So
who did you look up to then?
I can't even remember what year I started watching. It was, I guess, the Hearts. I love the Hearts. So mostly Owen. And I guess, who else? Ricky Steamboat, it was the general guys that you just, that were awesome. That anyone would say. It was everyone. I loved everyone because everyone provides something different with what they do. So when you wanted to get involved in the Australian wrestling scene, what was there around? Was there much of a scene around? There was, but it's very much underground. Like normally just walking around, you wouldn't necessarily see that any wrestling shows were on and that sort of stuff. Like, living your general, the general person that doesn't know about wrestling usually doesn't know about Australian wrestling either. And most fans of American wrestling doesn't know about Australian wrestling either. It's really hard to get our name out there because, advertising wise and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it was really underground. I was lucky enough for my mum to actually find a newspaper article saying that there was a company close to where I lived that was doing training and shows. So we went and checked them out, and that was it. I was sold.
Okay. And you started summer 2001?
Yeah, that's right.
And I see as well, it said you made your debut December 2001. You were a bodyguard.
Yeah.
Was this because...
It was just a gimmick. There wasn't too much to it. There's no too much reading into it. It wasn't, anything special whatsoever. It was just a way that the promoters of that company,
Was it because they looked at you and
best way they thought I could get into it? Sorry?
I was going to say because they looked at you and thought, hang on, this woman's 6'1", she's probably bigger than most of the wrestlers.
Probably.
I assume you probably were, but were you taller than most of the guys wrestling at the time?
I am taller than most of the guys here at the moment. I was a little bit shorter back then, not by much, but yeah, definitely taller than most people. Although for some reason I don't realise most of the time, so go figure that one out.
Fair enough. I was going to say, well, as far as when you started to train and all that, did your size then? I mean, you would have presumably then tried to wrestle a different style at being 6'1" than being, a 5'4" girl. You wouldn't have been doing the same sort of moves and stuff. Would you have been trying to wrestle more like a guy then than a girl?
Well, actually, that's funny that you say that because with what we just talked about before, me being into so much sport and stuff like that, I actually found doing anything, like I could do anything. I really enjoy doing high flying sort of stuff, and like training with guys originally had me, they had in the high flying sort of stuff like hurricane runners and moonsaults and all that sort of stuff. So that was my original training in that sort of style. Only when I actually broke out more from that company did I change, the way I was wrestling and the way they taught me to wrestle. So
I imagine that must make you quite unique in the fact that you do have the height, but then you also have that sort of body control in the air from being a gymnast, and you have the sort of poise from being a dancer as well. It must make you sort of, I guess as far as training is concerned, quite easy to train you because you're used to taking instruction and picking things up.
Yeah, that's true. I have a problem with imitating people, so I'm really good at watching someone do something and then doing it myself the exact way that they've just done it. So I think that's really what's got me through a lot of stuff as well. Being able to imitate, people doing moves and that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Clearly a fast learner, which is probably a good thing because, within just about over a year of you starting to wrestle or starting to get involved, you're on your way to America where you wrestle over there, including having a try at OVW.
Yeah. Looking back on it, I definitely wasn't ready. But it was a great experience that opened my eyes to a lot of different things, the way the wrestling business is and that sort of stuff. Not that I didn't know going into it, but, a little bit more eye-opening. So it was really good to actually get out there and have that experience early on so I could learn quicker, so I could progress from where I was at that point.
Yeah. Now February 2003 would have been around the time that I was watching OVW fairly regularly as well, and I did a little bit of a search to see if I could find any results from your time over there, and I noticed that it says Madison Eagles defeated Doug Basham via crucifix.
It was more...
Doug Basham was the man in OVW in 2003. What were you doing beating Doug Basham?
Well, as you've probably said before, as you said actually just earlier, I'm quite a big person, so, putting me against men, doesn't look that weird.
Yeah.
Especially now where I've got a bit more muscle on me than I did back then. It doesn't look that weird, me wrestling guys, because I'm usually bigger than them.
Well, and
but still, Doug Basham.
Yeah, well, what can you do? You get put into situations and you just have to deal with it. Yeah.
So, talk to us then about the OVW experience. Then, it was an actual tryout as far as that was concerned. Who would have assessed you? How did it go? I know you said you thought you were too early in your career to do that, which is fair enough. But just give us a bit of a taster of what it was like at that time over there.
Well, what they did is they just ran everyone that was there for the tryout through a whole bunch of different things, making sure everyone had the basics, promos, all that sort of stuff. Everyone had matches, that's where my match came into it. But, they were obviously looking for people that they could, work with. I don't know exactly what they were looking for, but the feedback that I got from that was not that I didn't have, I had some of the basics down. I didn't have all the basics when it came to strikes and that sort of stuff. But, headlock takedowns, all that sort of basic, I had that down pat. It was really the way I looked that didn't suit what they were looking for at the time, I guess you'd say.
Did they give you things then to go away and work on or something?
Yeah, my look and more experience.
Okay. What was up with your look then?
Lose weight.
It's always a nice thing to say to someone.
Yeah. I don't have an eating disorder at all now. No. But you can imagine, that sort of thing, saying to certain people how, it can make you feel.
Yes, yeah. You got great head, you got great headlocks, you do a good hurricane running, you seem to know your way around the ring, but you need to lose some fucking weight.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's kind of what they said to Sexy Star at the last FCW tryout, isn't it, essentially? People who are not... To a certain extent, yeah. Yeah, people who are not overweight at all, but they've still got to lose some weight. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So...
It's great. It's a good image for, young people wanting to be wrestlers.
Very much so, very much. It's got even better thanks to John Laurinaitis, yeah.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
As far as your time over this is February 2003, how long were you over there for? Did you do anything else when you were over there?
Yes, I went to where was I? Now you're making me think. See, this is the problem here. I'm using my brain. I've been hit too many times. I did some stuff I had a match against Jillian Hall. I think it wasn't in Chicago. Oh, it might have been in Chicago. Or Cleveland, one of those places. I had a match against Jillian Hall while I was over there for one of the companies. Went and did some more training with an old WCW wrestler. Learned a bit of things. It was like I didn't learn as much wrestling-wise as I did just wrestling world-wise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot more. Yeah, I learned a lot more, to do with the wrestling business and that sort of stuff and how that worked when I was over there.
And WWE then had another look at you back in Australia later that year. What was the update at that point? I think this is another try. Did they say you still haven't lost enough weight, or? Well,
no, that was that was a very hard one because they had me actually work a girl that had zero experience, who'd probably pretty much just watched wrestling before, but who looked like she could be in Playboy. They had me work something with her, and I physically got in the ring and could not do a single thing to her because she couldn't bump, she couldn't do a headlock properly, she couldn't do anything. So, what kind of result am I expecting if I don't get put with anyone that can actually wrestle?
This is a fair point. Who was this woman?
Yeah. I have no idea. I'd never heard of her before that, and I'd never seen her after that, so probably just a model,
See. So but that's it. Did he sort of maybe sabotage your tryouts essentially by just not being a wrestler?
Possibly. But, if they'd seen me and they'd thought, well, who knows? Who knows, really? But, you can always think that, yes, that's what happened. But, you never know what's going through their head. They could have taken one look at me and said, there's no way we were hiring her. Or they could have looked at me and said, oh, yeah, that looks good. And then, seen me wrestle and said, oh, no. So...
What about the intervening years then? Since that, have you ever had any interest to have another tryout, or have they had any interest in getting in touch with you or anything like that?
No, I haven't had any interest working for them, and I've never had any inquiries from them either. I guess the thing is, I'm really into wrestling. I love wrestling. I love telling stories, and I love entertaining a crowd. So that's I'm focused on being the best wrestler I can be, and I seem to never get there. I'm always striving to do more stuff and to be better as a wrestler and learn more things and all that sort of stuff. So, I'm concentrating on that. I'm not really concentrating on too much else.
I love the fact that you said, I'm really interested in wrestling, therefore I would have no interest in working for WWE.
Yeah.
It's essentially what you just said there, not without wanting to put too many words in your mouth, but that's essentially what you said, so lovely.
Well, the girls don't get much time on TV.
No,
they don't get, the long time to wrestle, to go out there, show what they've got, all that sort of stuff. So, the question is, do you want to be doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not something that you necessarily... And I mean, as far as your life is concerned at the minute, you're a wife, you're a mother, you've got commitments in PWA as far as your training's concerned and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't imagine even the idea would really work with your lifestyle now, would it?
No, probably not at this time at all. Since I've got a 3.5-year-old and an 8-month-old at home, life is pretty hectic.
Fair point. I'm amazed you get time to wrestle at all with two rugrats like that around.
Well, it's hard, but you work around it. I'm a mum during the day, and then at night I'm a wrestler.
Fair enough. Mama's got to go kick some butt now, kids.
Yeah, pretty much. My little girl knows. Yeah, my little girl knows. She sees me get ready for training. She's like, "Oh, you going to wrestling?" Yes, I am. Okay, see you later.
Wow.
Has she seen you wrestle then?
Yeah, she has. She loves it. She's mad for it. And she's only 3, so...
You're indoctrinating her young then.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Another 15 years she'll be in the next generation of Eagles. Oh, my goodness.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. We're taking over. We're like spreading like wildflower.
All right, now I've got to ask you something else as far as things that I've once found out about you, and I know very little else about this, and I need to ask. This was something that Kellie Skater mentioned on Volume 29, and unless she's full of shit, which is obviously possible, she mentioned that you once trained with Georges St-Pierre.
Oh, that's true.
What the fuck? How does Madison Eagles go about training with Georges St-Pierre? Explain this to me in great detail.
Well, in 2000, when was it? 2005, 2006, I decided I wanted to do shoot fighting. So I started training, and because I am the person I am, I got very committed to it. Found that my better skill was in the amateur wrestling, sort of translates over. And at that point, I was doing a lot of training. They were training me for the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics, which they sort of had the view of me doing that. So they sent me over to Canada to train with the Montreal Wrestling Club, and George was there, and that's where he did his amateur wrestling training. So funnily enough, we were in the same class together.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty good because I was a fan of him when I rocked up there. So, him not speaking much English and me, being too, that giggly little girl, it was a very interesting conversation we had.
I would love to have seen that conversation. Georges St-Pierre and Madison Eagles having a conversation in broken English. Beautiful.
Yeah, how did that conversation go?
I don't even want to remember, honestly. No, but he's a really nice guy. Really nice guy, very good looking, and a very good amateur wrestler. So, awesome guy. Don't tell my husband.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, as far as that's concerned, how long were you there in the Montreal club?
I was there for a month and a half, but we were training, 2 to 3 times a day. So it was pretty hectic.
So what happened to that then? Because you like you said, you were training for the Commonwealth Games, you were training for the Olympics. What happened as far as that training went?
Family happened. Because it was, and also the amateur wrestling and all that training was also taken away from the pro wrestling as well. So it had given me sort of like a half of a bit of a break from pro wrestling, but I knew that that's always been my passion and I've loved it. So, meeting my husband at that time and he sort of got me back into the swing of things and got me more motivated, pushed me to do new stuff. So, we sort of just decided to not go down the path of the Olympics because, it takes over your life, that sort of training.
Which I guess brings us quite neatly to the PWA then. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, this is one of Australia's promotions. It's pretty well known. I've got PWA and PWA DVDs in the cabinet. Tell us a bit about PWA. How did that all come about?
Well, PWA then came about when I met my husband. So that was the transition there from amateur wrestling back into pro wrestling, although I was doing pro wrestling at the time, but, more committed. He was travelling down to Melbourne and there was a PWA down in Melbourne that was run by Henry Lobo Jones, who was doing a lot of good stuff, in the whole scheme of Aussie wrestling. We were working for him. We became really good friends. We wanted to open up a training school originally in Sydney, where we just wanted to train people. But then it came about that we started up the PWA promotion. So it sort of landed in our laps a bit and we just ran with it as fast and as hard as we could.
Size-wise, how does it compare to other promotions in Australia? Is it the biggest?
Well, it's really hard to compare. There's Australia is so spread out. There's so many different kinds of companies in each state. There are a lot of companies that you'd say were backyarders putting on shows in venues, companies that aren't really doing the best quality shows either, and then there'd be the companies that are doing the better quality shows with the better wrestlers, the better trained wrestlers and that sort of stuff. And I put us up there in our state with probably one of the best in the country, so and in the state, yeah.
Well, I've noticed that as far as the setup goes for PWA, you sort of invest a lot into the look of it and the sort of the aesthetics of it as well. Do you think that just helps separate you from some of the other sort of lower down promotions which you were talking about?
I think the one thing that we always aim for is the wrestlers to be the best in Australia. And the aesthetic also, we're more concerned about how they look as well in the ring, with proper gear, displaying their character, all of that sort of stuff. So, more so than, other companies, they can have all this money to spend on setup and all lights and everything like that. But we're really just trying to get through with the actual wrestling and the content of the wrestling and the ability of our wrestlers. So that's what we try to use to help us stand apart from all the other companies in Australia. Yeah.
So how many different other women did you have that you could wrestle against in PWA during those early days?
Ooh, I'd say there's about there's around 20 female wrestlers in Australia. Now that's about the whole of Australia. Now half of them don't really know how to wrestle. Then half of the 10 that are left need more training, could do with training different places and learning a bit more. Not to say that they're not good, but, they could always, they need to be built up a bit more. And then the other half I wrestle against regularly. So, yeah, there's about 20, but mostly 5 that I wrestle with, more often.
So as far as then the women that you wrestle regularly, I mean, that brings us neatly onto the girls of PWWA specifically, and we can talk about them as we go along here. But the first people that come to mind are the first people that we know as Shimmer fans who've come across to Australia, and that would be Jessie McKay and Kellie Skater.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're responsible basically for both of them as far as their training is concerned. Is that right?
Not as much Kellie Skater. Like Jess, definitely. She trains with me regularly. She's a PWA member and a PWWA member. Skater, she comes up to, well, since she lives in Melbourne, she comes to Sydney as much as she can to get as much experience as she can. So, you know, but like I try and teach Skater in a different kind of way, not just, training, but, match review wise, working different ideas, wrestling psychology wise. So, that in a different way, yes, I guess you could say yes.
And as far as Jessie's concerned, then, I mean, would she be, without wanting to put Skater's nose out of joint here, but would she be the person that you're most proud of as far as your trainees so far?
Well, yes, and I can say that without, upsetting Skater because, Jess is there all the time. She's there every week at training, regularly, multiple times a week. So, I'm with her all the time. So whatever she does reflects on me. So, if I feel proud of her, then, whatever she does comes back on me. So, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely proud of what we've done with her.
You can see really sort of the progression of Jessie, I guess, if you in the PWWA Women's Collection Volume 1, which is out now, available to buy, kids. You can really just see the sort of evolution of Jessie as a character, as a wrestler as well, and to the point now where you got to the most recent tournament which you had, the Last Woman Standing one. It just almost seems like a completely different person.
Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely grown throughout the couple of years that she's been wrestling, just with everything, because, we're constantly, in PWA and PWWA and the training and everything, we're constantly giving feedback. We're constantly striving to be different and to improve ourselves and to, work with everything and just move forward constantly. No backwards pedaling for us.
Jessie hasn't been wrestling for that long either, has she? Just a few years, did you say?
No, yeah, 2 or 3 years. I can't. It must be about 3 years now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys, as far as the first time we saw you, was when you came over to America 2008. For your big trip, and you guys teamed as the Pink Eagles, the Pink Ladies, beg your pardon, in Shimmer. The Pink Eagles works as well. Pink Ladies. By that point, I mean, now, much like you in your early career when you had this big American trip after basically only about a year in the business, this was kind of like Jessie McKay's version of the same thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I wrestle different people, my whole, understanding of wrestling increases. So, it does that definitely for her as well. Yeah, and it did a long way with her, I think, and her abilities.
And the interesting thing, I think, that some people who've have seen Jessie McKay's work in Shimmer and some of the American places is that in Australia she's pretty much the exact opposite of the character that she is in America.
Yes. She, at the moment, she is a very good heel. Jessie's character in Australia is completely different. It's the total opposite of her Shimmer character, and she does them both very well, I think. So she's one of the most hated wrestlers in PWA, definitely.
She's like a spoiled bitch character, isn't she?
Yeah, it is, definitely. She plays it well.
I have to ask you then, as someone who's obviously, trained her and someone who's worked with her as both sides of the coin, which one's she better at?
Oh, can I say both? Is that an answer? Because no. I definitely think both. No, because she's fantastic as a face, but she's fantastic as a heel as well. I think putting us together, like me personally wrestling her, I think she's better as a face and me as a heel. But that's just my opinion. So someone else might have a different opinion of that.
Fair enough.
Well, that was quite evident at the most recent Shimmer tapings, when you two had your main event Shimmer title match as well. Because I think quite a few people, especially when we did our Shimmer wrap-up show on Diva Dirt, said that was the best match of the entire weekend.
Oh, that's very nice. I didn't know that.
Was that kind of your intention when you went out there? You're like, okay, this is it. This is our opportunity now to prove that Australians are better than everybody else. Like, we've got the main event slot. We're going to go and slay everybody.
Would you believe me if I said we were going out there to say, let's just not be shit? Which is exactly what happened. We were both thinking beforehand, wow, wouldn't it be funny if we both went out there and we did the worst match of our lives, like in front of all these people? That would just be icing on the cake of Crap Hill.
That would be funny. I like that. Yeah. Okay, but as it turned out, you guys, as I say, did put in one of the better matches of the weekend. With Jessie, is it a case now where you basically work with her so much that you can basically do it in your sleep?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, when it comes to a match that we find very important, that we have to put we put a lot more work into it. But you know, just working in general, it's much easier. We know how each other moves. We know, you know, what we do good, what we take well from each other, all that sort of stuff. So although we know the way each other moves, you know, the way each other takes certain bumps, the way we give certain things, all that sort of stuff, we're constantly doing new stuff. So, you know, we don't have the exact same match over and over and over again.
Fair enough. And what's your, you know, maybe you don't want to answer this, but as far as Jessie's concerned, what's your thoughts of where she can go in her career?
She can go anywhere, really, I think. Like, she's got the looks, she's got the attitude, and she's got the ability to, like, learn. So I think just, you know, anywhere she wants to take it, I think she's got, you know, the world at her feet at this point. So she just needs to, she wants and go for it.
I mean, as far as Kellie Skater is concerned, then we're instituting a new rule here on the show where we've got to ask anybody, have you got any good rape tank stories?
Okay, first of all, I've got to tell you that everyone has a good Kellie Skater story, but a lot of us are not at liberty to talk about these stories because they involve people that we're not supposed to talk about, or it's just too rude. There's a lot of different reasons, but let me tell you, everyone has a Kellie Skater story because when she gets drunk, she's very, very entertaining. And us Aussies who drink a lot, you know, that happens a fair bit. Mm-hmm. You know, even if you're not going out, she ends up drunk somehow. But no, she's a lot of fun to be around. I guess the one that I could probably say was just a rib that both Jessie and I pulled on her one time when we were doing a show out in the country in Australia. We decided to have her face, which, you know, she does, but her heel gimmick is much more entertaining. But we know we'd have a bit of a laugh, have her face. We straightened her hair, and because her gear got stuck in transit in America, we actually put her in this little scrawny outfit, did her makeup, did her hair, and then ribbed her by making her come out to Britney Spears. So that was very entertaining for all of us, especially seeing the look on her face when that happened. That was fantastic.
How did she take to that?
Oh, it was actually really amusing. The amount she swore at us when she came backstage, we loved it. Jess was in the ring trying not to crack up because you could just tell if you know Kellie Skater, then that's a perfect rib for her to pull.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's funny now. We're getting this Kellie Skater thing. There seems to be almost like a veil of secrecy around Kellie Skater stories. We're going to have to puncture this at some point.
I know. Someone's going to come on, and they're just going to drop every single story that none of us want to talk about.
We have to get Kellie Skater on to actually tell us the stories herself. You never know.
I know.
Interesting. All right then. Well, let's then talk about you and the fact that. As far as Shimmer is concerned, you've risen right to the top as far as being the champion is concerned. And this pains me to say, but the reaction when you beat Mischief for the Shimmer title will be something that I will remember probably forever, due to the fact that the reaction was non-existent. Everybody just looked at each other, and it was this pause, and everybody went, "Did that actually happen?" I still refuse to believe it happened, but tell me about that match and the fact that you got to beat Mischief after like 2 years as the champion.
It was really good. It's to be put in that sort of position is nerve-wracking, but it's very flattering and it instills a bit more confidence in you and what you do, and, you know, reassures that what you're doing, you're on the right path and stuff. So it was really good. The reaction from the crowd when I won, it was a bit hard to tell because I'd burst my eardrum at that point, so I couldn't actually hear anyone in the crowd. So the fact that there was silence, I just thought that was just because of my ear, not because everyone was in total and utter shock that I'd won. No, but it was awesome. Like, you know, working with Chiff was fantastic, and it was, you know, it was great for me. I was injured and it was hard in that way, but, you know, I tried to do the best I could, and yeah, I was really honoured to be put in that position.
Well, you're still the champion, so that means you're going to be going into the tapings next year whenever they are as the champion, which will be about a year's time. But what about you, sort of your short and long-term goals? What are they? Short-term,
holding on to the belt.
Who would you like to face? Who would you like to face as far as short-term is concerned?
You know, everyone on the Shimmer roster is there because, you know, they're doing good and they're putting in a lot of effort, and they're all there because they all have something different to provide and put out there. So, you know, anyone really. I want to wrestle everyone. That's my problem. I love wrestling new people, working with people who have different styles, different ways. I can learn from them as well, and you know, you never know what two people can do in a ring until you put them in there. So I look forward to really working with everyone, everyone on the Shimmer roster.
Maybe in a handicap match. How about that?
I'd do it.
All right. And long term, I mean, we already talked about the fact that with your family life and your PWA commitments and so on, you're not really necessarily looking to go to WWE or anything like that. But I mean, where do you see yourself in another few years' time? Do you see yourself still doing what you're doing, or is there a grand plan?
No grand plan whatsoever. I'm just going with what life and wrestling is throwing at me, and as I've said before, I just continually want to get better. So wherever that takes me, I have no idea, but you know, as long as I try to continue to improve and get out there, try and travel a bit more, you know, work with different companies, see what I can do, really. Just, you know, I'm happy to go wherever it takes me. So yeah, don't really have much of an answer for that one.
Fair enough. Just take it as you come.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, earlier on you were talking about how you and Jessie didn't want to have a shit match when you went out there for your main event, and then you were also going on about you winning the title from Mischief and the endorsement that gives you. Do you still get the nerves when you're going out there, even though, you know, you are in a position where you're at the top? Do you still feel those nerves?
Oh, absolutely. Every single time I go out there. But I think it's actually a good thing because it gives you that adrenaline rush. It gives you that, you know, look, let me just say, I would be worried if I wasn't nervous before I went out there because then I'd be, you know, I don't know, you're too comfortable with what you're doing. I don't know what it is. I think it gives you a bit of an edge being nervous as well anyway. So, you know, I think it's a good thing.
I think being nervous probably shows that you care.
Yeah, probably. You want to do a good job, and, you know, you actually care about what the fans are going to think. Like, really, I'm going out there to entertain everyone that's sitting in the crowd, and you know, I'm more nervous that I'm not going to be able to do my job. You know, I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, Madison, it's been an eye-opening interview for me, certainly. But no, seriously, in all honesty, thanks very much for taking the time with us and letting us get a little bit of an insight into the makings of Madison Eagles. Before we do go, anything you want to plug? Anything you want to get your name out there about?
Or just check out PWA and PWWA and what we're doing down here in Australia. We're working hard, and hopefully we can get a bit more exposure with just Australian wrestling, and